Hi, welcome to the Art of Selling Junk. My name is John. Today I was working on an interesting listing. I have a nice collection of vintage Valentines, and I'm going to show you my thought process as I sort them and as I list them. So here we have a nice little pile of Valentines I picked up with some stationery, and I really like them, and they're collectible. If you look on eBay, you'll see that a lot of these things are being sold pretty regularly, and listings get a lot of watchers. Ephemera and old paper goods is its own subgenre and little niche of collecting. So this fits right in with that, and you can't deny that just the graphics are fantastic. So I have to decide now how I'm going to sell them. And my first question is going to be, do I sell them as a lot or do I break them up? And you'll hear me on this channel preach about your time. So the quickest thing to do would just be to throw them all together, maybe run an auction on eBay, or just throw out a price and sell them all as one shooting match. But today is really hot and everything else that I have to list needs to be cleaned, and I don't want to do it. So I'd rather spend the time in the air conditioning and maybe figure out some ways to get a little extra money for these. If you see them sold in bulk, you'll see them often for less than $1 Valentine. And I just think that that is too cool to sell for $1. So I'm going to divide these up. My next thing I have to consider is, are they going to be an eBay listing or an Etsy listing? And honestly, this is the sort of thing that could go either way. They're very collectible, which leans towards eBay, but they're great gifts, and they're very decorative, which is what I think of when I create an Etsy listing. So I am going to probably stick with eBay on this, and I'm just going to kind of sort them through and see what actually would make good lots. And what I want to do and keep in mind is that if I get too many in one lot, I'm going to have a lower price per card because there's only so much someone's willing to pay for, say, 20 cards. But I need to break them into smaller lots to make more money without wasting my time. So I need to kind of find a sweet spot where someone's getting a nice value of cards and I'm getting a high enough sale price that it's worth messing with. And right now, the things that jump out to me are these two cards, which are pretty politically incorrect. And that's always its own little niche on eBay, is things that probably wouldn't get made today. So anytime there's something irreverent or uncouth, that has a chance to stand out on its own. So I look for anything that's politically incorrect, rude, of another era, because those items, if you look, tend to be some of the highest selling items within any genre. The next thing that's jumping out at me are these that are mechanical. So I think they're pretty cool. And that could be a lot. So I'm going to set these aside. And what I'm hoping to do is, instead of selling a card for a couple bucks, I'm hoping that by separating these, because they all have something in common, or unique somehow, now we're selling them for, say, $5 or more a lot. I don't know exactly how that's going to play out, but that's sort of my aim. And now I'm seeing that we have a lot of sort of similar looking animation. And I think these all look really good together. Like this one's even has some felt. That's kind of fun. And then this is what I have left over. Now, the problem I see here is that these just aren't as special. So I don't know if I will, how I will sell these, if I will bother, because the condition isn't as so good, and they're just not as interesting. Although, you know, you could even say you have a panda bear theme if you chose to do that. So that's the debate that's always going on, is what's the most compelling way of selling something, you know? Or you could add another bear, and the theme could be bears. Actually, you know, you've got 5. Or in this case, you've got cats, but now one's not mechanical. You know, this one's all sort of out by itself. So I'm looking for anything where I can create a theme or some sort of unifying just characteristic that could go through all the cards without detracting from them. Like, first, I just still don't think that's as cool as that. So what I will probably end up doing is a collection of cute animals, a collection of mechanical ones, the ones that probably wouldn't get made today, and then now here, these are still pretty fun, and they're from daughters and from grandparents and mothers. And I think what I'll do is probably do a lot, something like this here. And then this might just end up in the cute animal pile. Might be a freebie that someone gets without knowing it. Because honestly, sometimes I will not include something if it breaks up my photos, and it's the sore thumb. And you can see, like, this is going to be a really cute photo, and this just doesn't. So this will probably be someone's freebie. And likewise with this, I'm not going to photograph this because the stains are honestly not worth me trying to explain the condition on. Everything else here, a little bit of discoloration, I can sum that up in a sentence. I could say the one with the heart has a cloth insert and slight discoloration. The more I muddy the waters by talking about another piece, the longer my ad takes, the harder the copy is, the less smooth it is to read. So I will just probably delete this for the sake of being concise. And so what I've done is I've taken a lot of cards that I don't think would have really done all that well as a unit. They would have sold, but you also have to consider that they would have had to been photographed as a big lot, and some of the really unique ones would have gotten lost in the mix. And here, by breaking it up, I can highlight the unique ones. You know, someone here is sitting here and they can almost tell their own story. I have a granddaughter that has blonde hair, loves squirrels, puppies, flowers, and hearts. You know, they're more relatable when they're in a smaller unit. Same thing with the fun animals and then the mechanical ones. So we have a system now of creating 1, 2, 3, 4 lots from one giant lot. And this is one of my favorite things to do when I'm buying. I love to buy collections and I love to buy in bulk and then figure out what I've got later. And sometimes you can just add value by reorganizing things or grouping things differently or creating some sort of narrative or a thread that links several things that you bought in disparate spaces or you bought in different contexts or no one else bothered to showcase. You know, if you were buying a box of stationery and this one was on top, you would pay less than if, say, this one was on top. So it just depends on how it was presented, what opportunities there are for you to present it better and make more money in the process. So that's just where my brain goes when I see things like this. And like I've mentioned, I'm always looking for bulk buys and collections and just big groupings of things that you can take like a deck of cards and reshuffle into different hands. And it's something I've found time and time again works, and it's a great way to create value where there doesn't seem to be much. So I hope that's something that's useful to you. And if it is, we'll be talking more stuff like this throughout the channel going into the future. So please consider subscribing. And we'll see you next time.